Stefanski was fired from the Cleveland Browns after sabotaging Shedeur Sanders in his rookie season, and he never, ever wanted Shedeur Sanders to be a part of that team. We all know that. So he was a hot commodity on the coaching carousel, which made no sense to a lot of people. But Kevin Stefanski was a commodity on the coaching carousel. And
was the first interaction with Stefanski a phone call or in person?
The first one was a phone call. I don't even know if he was in Atlanta yet. I think he was still trying to move all his stuff. So he called me like that same day, and we had a conversation.
Can you take me into the conversation? I don't want to know the details, but I guess I want to know the dominant feeling that you had, the feeling you had after talking to him.
No, it felt great. I feel like for him, for me, I feel like I'm a family-oriented guy, and
Penix's confidence is growing every single day. And this is something that we knew in the pre-draft process. There was one thing that nobody bashed Michael Penix on, was his leadership. Everybody knew that coming out of Washington, this guy, if he was anything, it's the fact that he's a leader of men.
If Penn really saw what happened to Shedeur and didn't like it, what does that mean for Stefanski's locker room? And who's next? Stay locked in, because this story goes deeper than any headline is telling you right now. So, don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. When you see the same thing happen twice, it's not bad luck. It's not timing. It's not fans being dramatic. Nah, that's a pattern loud, ugly, undeniable. And right now, if you're paying attention, you're watching the exact same movie get filmed again, just with a different jersey and a different city. Because listen, I'm not even asking you to believe every rumor. I'm not asking you to blindly ride with every headline. I'm asking you to use your eyes, your instincts, that part of you that's watched the NFL long enough to know when a quarterback is being evaluated versus when a quarterback is being managed. And what we're seeing here? This is management. This is chess. This is people in suits quietly deciding the ending before the first snap even happens. Same coach, same signals, same silence. That's the part that jumps off the screen, because the loudest thing in the NFL is never what they say into a microphone. It's what they refuse to say. It's the hesitation. It's the "we'll see." It's the "we like where he's at." It's the "we're excited about his rehab." It's the way they talk around a quarterback like they're walking around a puddle in brand new shoes, and fans catch it instantly. We do. Because we've been conditioned by years of watching this league chew up young quarterbacks, and then pretend it was the quarterback's fault. We've seen it with teams that can't protect, teams that can't develop, teams that swear they're building while they're secretly shopping. And the wild part is, they always use the same language, the same PR smoke, the same open competition line like it's supposed to sound fair. But here's the thing. Open competition is only real when everybody gets the same margin for error. When the staff actually wants to find out who's best. When the reps aren't tilted. When the play calling isn't a trap. When the protection isn't a punishment. Because if one quarterback gets the easy stuff, the screens, the quick reads, the clean pockets, and the other dude is asked to be Superman on 3rd and long behind a broken line, that ain't evaluation. That's setup. And that's why this moment matters bigger than one team, bigger than one fan base. Because when a coach's type becomes more important than the quarterback's talent, the league is telling you something. It's telling you development isn't always about work ethic or processing or arm talent. Sometimes it's about permission. Sometimes the building decides who's allowed to succeed, who's allowed to struggle, who gets patience, who gets blame. And I know some people are gonna say, "You're reaching." No, I'm recognizing. Because we've seen this before. Think about how quickly the narrative flips. One week you're the future, the next week you're not the guy. And nothing on the field even changed. The only thing that changed was the tone upstairs. And that's why I'm telling you right now, if you can feel that shift early, you're not crazy, you're ahead. You're seeing the signals before the Sunday shows, package it into a neat little storyline. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And the scary part? We haven't even gotten to the part where the pattern becomes a plan. Let's slow this down for a second. Because this is where headlines lie to you, and reality quietly tells a different story. Where the quarterback actually stands right now is not where Twitter thinks he stands, not where optimistic beat writers say he stands, and definitely not where press conferences try to place him. It's somewhere in between the lines. And if you've watched this league long enough, you know exactly how to read those lines. Start with the depth chart. On paper, it might say QB1, QB2, starter when healthy. That's the clean version. That's the version teams want fans to screenshot and feel comfortable with. But depth charts don't tell you who's protected. They don't tell you who the offense is really being built for. And they definitely don't tell you who the building believes in when things get uncomfortable. Now, add the injury context, because this is where things get slippery. Injuries are supposed to buy quarterbacks time. Rehab is supposed to come with patience, grace, insulation. But in the NFL, injuries also create opportunity, not always for the guy rehabbing, but for the organization to stall, hedge, and quietly explore options without saying it out loud. And you can hear it in the language. We're excited about his progress. We'll see where he's at. We're going to evaluate everything. Those aren't confidence statements. Those are placeholders. Then there's the contract timeline. This part never lies. Teams don't talk emotionally with contracts. They talk mathematically. Years remaining, guarantees, flexibility, outs. If a quarterback doesn't have long-term security baked in, the leash is shorter whether they admit it or not. And when you combine a short leash with a coaching staff that didn't handpick you, that's pressure before the ball is even snapped. Which brings us to coaching alignment. This is the quiet killer. When a quarterback and a head coach are truly aligned, you feel it instantly. The coach defends him publicly, names him directly, uses language like, our guy. But when that alignment isn't there, everything becomes abstract. Everything becomes conditional. Suddenly, it's about competition. Suddenly, it's about earning it. Suddenly, it's about who fits the system, and that phrase should always make you nervous because systems don't throw touchdowns. Quarterbacks do. And this is where media optimism does the most damage. Because fans hear competition and think fairness. They hear open battle and think opportunity. But in this league, open competition often means the front office is buying time while quietly scanning the market. It means they don't want backlash when the pivot comes. It's positioning. And quarterbacks feel this before fans ever do. They feel it in meetings, in reps, in which mistakes get corrected and which ones get magnified. They feel it when the margin for error shrinks, when one bad drive sticks longer than 3 good ones. If you were the quarterback, you'd feel it too. You'd know whether you're being developed or managed. So don't confuse silence with patience. Don't confuse optimism with belief. Because right now, this isn't patience, it's positioning. And once you understand that, the next phase of this story starts to make a lot more sense. Confidence doesn't get destroyed in the NFL with one bad throw. It doesn't vanish because of one interception or one rough Sunday. Confidence gets quietly stripped away piece by piece when a quarterback is put in situations where success is harder, mistakes are louder, and patience runs out faster than it should. This is the part fans don't always see on the stat sheet. Because sabotage in this league rarely looks like sabotage. It looks like game plan decisions. It looks like execution issues. It looks like a quarterback being asked to convert 3rd and 9 over and over again while somebody else lives in 2nd and 4. Same position. Same jersey. Completely different lives. Start with play calling. Who gets the easy completions? Who gets the rhythm throws? The quick screens? The defined reads? The first drive confidence builders? And who gets dropped into 5-step drops behind shaky protection, asked to be perfect just to stay afloat? Ask yourself that honestly, because when one quarterback gets called efficient and the other gets called inconsistent, but the menu is different, that's not evaluation, that's narrative building. Then look at protection. This one matters more than people want to admit. A clean pocket buys you confidence. A collapsing pocket steals it. And when one quarterback consistently has time to reset, scan, and step into throws, while another is playing survival football by the second quarter, the gap widens fast. Not because one guy is tougher, but because one guy is being protected. And here's the real killer. Margin for error. This is where careers quietly turn. One quarterback throws a pick and gets a second chance. Aggressive red. Learning moment. Another throws a pick and suddenly it's, we've got to be smarter. Can't put the team in that position. Same mistake, different consequences. How long do you think confidence survives in that environment? This is how struggles are manufactured. Not invented, manufactured. And then once the label sticks, it's almost impossible to peel off. Raw. Needs development. Not ready. Those words don't just describe, they follow. They become the lens everything is viewed through. A good throw becomes expected. A bad throw becomes proof. And don't get this. Twisted quarterbacks still have to play better. Nobody's excusing missed reads or bad decisions. But context matters. Environment matters. Growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. So let me ask you this. How many quarterbacks would look raw if they were constantly playing from behind the chains? How many would look not ready if their best plays were treated like baseline and their worst plays were treated like character flaws? We've seen this movie before. Think about guys who escaped bad situations and suddenly looked different, not because they changed overnight, but because the system finally stopped fighting them. Confidence didn't magically appear. It was allowed to exist. That's the part that never makes the headline. Confidence doesn't get destroyed with noise. It gets destroyed with structure. And you can't judge growth in a system designed to limit it. And once that realization hits, the story stops being about failure and starts being about escape. This is the moment where people get it wrong because they think exposure is the end of the road. They think dysfunction ruins careers. They think getting caught in the wrong system stains you forever. But in this league, exposure doesn't always bury you. Sometimes it frees you. Because once the curtain gets pulled back, once the pattern becomes visible, the story stops being about what the quarterback can't do and starts being about what he survived. And that shift? It happens quietly. Not on Sunday night broadcasts, not in viral clips. It happens in front offices. It happens in text threads between executives. It happens when other general managers start saying, "Yeah, I watched that tape, and that situation was rough." That's how perception really changes in the NFL, not with praise, but with understanding. And understand this. The league watches everything. Every snap. Every press conference pause. Every non-answer. When dysfunction shows itself twice, 3 times, with the same fingerprints, people take notes. Coaches take notes. Scouts take notes. And especially GMs who know exactly how fragile quarterback development really is. They know how many careers die not from lack of talent, but from lack of belief. And inside the locker room, that's where it matters most. Because players know, offensive linemen know when protection calls are a mess. Receivers know when routes are called with no margin. Defenders know when their quarterback is being asked to do too much. And when a quarterback keeps showing up anyway, keeps taking hits, keeps owning mistakes, keeps leading, that's currency. Real currency. Way more valuable than a glowing quote from a podium. We've seen this before. Quarterbacks who were labeled limited, not ready, not the guy, until they escaped the wrong environment. And suddenly, the same traits that were criticized became strengths. The same calm under pressure became poise. The same stubbornness became leadership. What broke others? Sharpened him. That's why adversity, when it's exposed properly, doesn't destroy credibility, it builds it. Because now, when people talk about this quarterback, they don't just talk about arm talent or reads. They talk about resilience, about command, about how he handled being put in a box that didn't fit him. And skeptics hate this part. Because skepticism only works when the story is incomplete. Once the full context is out, doubt loses leverage. What used to be whispers becomes proof. What used to be excuses becomes explanation. And suddenly, the quarterback isn't begging for belief anymore. He's carrying receipts. That's the reveal. Not that the system failed, but that the player didn't break when it did. Sometimes the system failing you is the proof you were never the problem. And once that truth settles in, the next chapter isn't about survival anymore. It's about what happens when belief finally catches up. Here's what happens next, and this is the part you need to lock in on. Because moments like this don't announce themselves as history while they're happening. They feel messy, uncomfortable, debated. But later, they get replayed like evidence. First, the coach's reputation doesn't collapse overnight. It never does. It erodes, slowly, quietly. 1 situation gets explained away. 2 gets questioned. 3 becomes a label. And once that label sticks, hard to work with quarterbacks, needs his guy, rigid system, it follows you. Front offices don't forget patterns. Owners definitely don't forget patterns. And the next time things go sideways, there's no benefit of the doubt left to cash in. Second, the quarterback's next opportunity doesn't look like sympathy, it looks like leverage. Because the league isn't just watching highlights, it's watching context. It's watching how a player handled being doubted, how he led when belief was thin, how he spoke when the easy move would have been silence. That stuff matters. That's how careers get second chapters that actually fit. We've seen this before. Guys written off early, only to resurface in environments that finally match them. Not because they changed who they were, but because someone finally stopped fighting what they were. History is full of quarterbacks who weren't wrong. They were just early in the wrong place. And here's the part analysts hate admitting. Fans usually see this first. Not because we're emotional, but because we're watching without agenda. We're not protecting access. We're not hedging takes. We're reacting in real time to what feels off. And when thousands of people independently say, something's not right here, that's not noise. That's signal. So if you're feeling that tension right now, that sense that this story is bigger than a depth chart or a press conference, quote, trust that. Trust your instincts. Because years from now, when somebody pulls up this clip and says, this was the moment, it won't feel dramatic anymore. It'll feel obvious. That's how reframing works in the NFL. What gets mocked today becomes context tomorrow. What gets debated today becomes consensus later. And the players who survive the confusion phase, they come out sharper, clearer, more dangerous. So pay attention to the language, to the pauses, to who gets defended and who gets deferred. Pay attention to who's allowed to grow and who's asked to prove everything all at once. Because the truth is already leaking out, not in headlines, but in patterns. And this isn't a warning, it's an invitation. To witness it as it happens. To be early. To remember where you were when the narrative was still forming. This story isn't over, it's just finally being exposed.